Hello, and this is my humble opinion. I'm coming to you today to share with you a popular major at the CSU level and how to get there from a community college. The exact tools to use, I'm going to go through assist.org. I'm going to go through general education and just like some gaps that may not be apparent to you that you might want to bring up with your counselor. This is in no way supposed to replace the resources on the campus that you go to. This is just kind of supplemental information to add to, and give you some guidance toward making this all happen smoothly. Oh, and I do want to, since I've been sharing a different college shirt for every video I make, here it is, Wiley College. If you can get that Roman numeral, you're doing things. A lot of people can't go that high for Roman numerals. That is the year the college was founded. So, oh, and I'll tell you, you know what actually interested me in this university anyway? So I saw this movie, The Great Debaters.
So what you're saying is I'm not capable.
It's not a matter of competence. It's a matter of experience.
Well,
About a historically black college in Marshall, Texas. It's a Christian college, private school. And, in 1929, around that time, all the HBCUs could only debate with other HBCUs, right? And so there would be competitions, but, you could only compete with another HBCU. But University of Michigan invited, Wiley College to debate with them, and they had been undefeated for, I want to say, like 10 years. And so they defeated University of Michigan. No biggie, but it kind of was because that was a predominantly white university, and that would be the first time an HBCU was going up against a predominantly white institution. A PWI, can I say that? I think that's what that is. But what made Wiley College so well known is that USC, or University of Southern California, invited them to have a debate. And this is the year after they were national champions. So they're defending their title, and Wiley College beat them as they're defending their debate title. And that just kind of, I think that was noteworthy. Anyhow, let's get into the meat of things. I have adjusted my mic away from my mouth a little bit. Hopefully that makes it where my S's are a little less stressful in your ears. Anyhow, the campuses that we're going to use are Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly Pomona, and San Jose State. And the reason I'm using Cal Poly is because it's kind of the most sought after CSUs in the system, right, out of the 23 campuses. And the reason I'm using San Jose State is because they have an Impaction list for transfer students and for those coming from high school. And what that does, as I'll show you, is that it tells you the GPA that you have to get into that program. I also want to show you what kind of GPAs are required to get into these kinds of majors. Now, I can tell you this right now. COVID and distance learning and all that messed up all these GPAs. I don't want to say messed them up because the GPAs used to be like 3.5, 3.3 at the lowest. And now they've gone sub 3.0 because, 2 years ago, students were basically 100% distance learning. And so they were trying to do physics 4A classes, freaking linear algebra, intermediate calculus online, 100%, right? And so that kind of affected the pool of students. So we find ourselves here at the CSU General Education requirements, right? And so this is a list of all the classes that a student would need to take to get to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Pomona, or San Jose State, and any of the other 23 CSU campuses in California. So basically, in here, it says you should have up at least 60 transferable units of major and general education courses, right, to transfer. Now, campuses will consider you if you have 45 units and some AP courses. But generally, if you're at the California Community College, you're better off hitting those 60 transferable units. And so, what kind of classes are they looking for? So, if I were to sit with a student who came into West Valley College and they're in their first semester, they go, "All right, I'm interested in mechanical engineering. What should I do first semester?" Of course, I'm gonna suggest some sort of orientation, maybe a counseling course, but straight up, I'm gonna say, "All right, so let's look through everything you need. An oral communication. So you're gonna be able to choose between public speaking, persuasive speaking, argumentation and debate, and the honors designations of those courses, which I might add is an easy way to stand out from your cohort because the CSU application does not allow you to really say much about yourself. They just look at you on paper as far as the transcripts, the academic rigor. Were you taking 7 units a semester and it took you 4 years to transfer? Or were you taking 18 units a semester and you just got through it in 2 years? All right, and then written communication, that good old English 1A, English 1B, and I'll say this, there are options in critical thinking, right? You can do introduction to logic, introduction to ethics, logic and critical reasoning, critical thinking and writing. Some schools prefer English 1C over English 1B. And then you go, all right, you're going to need a physical science. You're going to need a life science, which is usually a biological science. And each one of these have to have a lab with it. Okay. Now I can tell you this right now. Since we're going to be talking about mechanical engineering, the requirements of mechanical engineering are going to overlap with general education. And so you're going to have kind of the physics. You're going to have, I believe there is some chemistry in there. And yeah, so you take life science as well. Of course, it has to have a lab with it as well, too. And a math, which is part of your major as well. You're going to take half of these math classes as a mechanical engineering major. 3 courses in the arts and humanities. And basically, it's this. These are all arts, theater, and music, right? And there's some women and gender studies, some, like dance in America. Kind of all this is history. It's art history, music history, right? Fashion history. Students like to come in and go, "Oh, an art class? Yeah, I'm going to do pottery, or I'd like to be painting," something like that. And the fact is, you're going to do the history, you're going to learn the history of pottery or the history of painting um, in a specific era, or maybe the history of architecture, um, or some sort of film music appreciation, jazz music history. You see, the most hands-on I know out of this list is music theory, which is very difficult and very few students do it unless they are music majors. The humanities, all right? So you're going to find all of the languages. You're going to find Italian, Japanese, Spanish, German, French in here, right? Um, and a bunch of English courses that are more like literature based, and American Sign Languages in here. But what I suggest in here to a student going to the CSU is to take a United States history and well, I would say United States history is the way to go. Um, Adding a political science to it from the social and behavioral science area, I think it's a good idea. Right. So in here you'll find psychology, sociology, some other history courses, anthropology, child and child studies, basically, economics, ethnic studies, administration of justice, even. So the reason I suggest a history and a political science is this. Check out this CSU graduation requirement area. It is not required by all CSUs to complete American institutions requirements prior to transfer, but it is strongly recommended to complete one of the following sequences. And I'll tell you why. You don't need and you don't have to take a history and a political science to transfer to Cal Poly SLO, but guess what you need to graduate Cal Poly SLO? You need a history and a political science to satisfy the American institutions requirement. All right. So either you hold off on this and you pay more money for the same classes after transferring, or you do it while you're at the community college, save money and time. And then there's lifelong learning, which is very mixed, where there's some kind of health sciences, some communications, some counseling courses, nutrition, um, things that you can basically use in any field. All right, and 3 units of ethnic studies, and that's really it out of that list. um, this is the same thing except in a different format, right? This I like to look at this because I know what all these classes are by the subject and number. But when students look at this, it's sometimes a little confusing or not helpful. Okay, so I'm gonna go to let's go to assist so you can see if you want to look up any major. We're looking at this year, academic year 2022 to 2023. That's the newest information they have. I am going to use the institution that I work at, West Valley College. And we're going to use San Luis Obispo, right? And I'm glad to see Humboldt up here because they recently became a Polytechnic university after putting a bunch of funding into the STEM programs. And we're going to view that agreement. Now, you could look up anything in here: aerospace engineering, animal science. Um, you know what? Let's scroll down a little bit. Chemistry, city and regional planning, communication studies, comparative ethnic studies, general engineering. But I'm just going to put mech, and we're going straight to mechanical engineering. Basically, all of this up here says you should have 60 transferable units and do as many of the courses on this list as possible. And I'll tell you this, the left side of this, I'll call it an articulation sheet, it is a list of the classes at San Luis Obispo, right, at Cal Poly. Mechanical engineering, 128, 129, and 130. We don't have that. And a lot of community colleges do not have that. Now, and they don't hold this against you, right? If you can't take this class where you're at, they're not going, hey, how come you didn't go take classes 2 hours away so you could do intro to mechanical engineering? They're looking for this. They're looking for statics and vector mechanics. Okay. Support classes, chemistry 1A and 1B. That good old engineering, as we have it, programming and problem solving in MATLAB, and it satisfies, oh, thank you. And it satisfies the programming for engineering students. There's circuit analysis, which satisfies electric circuit theory class. And that looks like that's an electrical engineering class over there. And now, understand this. These ORs, now if there was a class here, it would be, now this also is sometimes confusing to students because they're like, wait, which OR are they talking about? Engineering, they're basically saying engineering 60 or whatever would have been here, but there's nothing here. So you have to take engineering 60. You also have to take engineering 98. And so then we're going to go into more of the math, right? So here goes Introduction to Materials, right? That's their materials engineering class. And here we go. basically take all of the math. Calculus 1, Calculus 2. That's actually what they call it. Calculus 1, Calculus 2. Um, Now you're going to see repeats of these classes. That doesn't mean, oh, you have to take it again. That means there's kind of overlapping information in these classes. So you take 3A, 3B, then you take intermediate calculus. Um, and to satisfy linear analysis 1 at Cal Poly SLO, you have to take differential equations and linear algebra at West Valley College. And luckily, that completes all of the math requirement, right? And then the last section is physics, right? They want general physics 1, 2, and 3. And what we have satisfies that, right? Students can take mechanics, they can take light, heat, and waves. They can also take electricity and magnetism under engineering physics, right? Um, this is the thing. All the more classes in here that you complete, the lower GPA you can get in with, basically. Or should I say, the fewer classes you take, the higher GPA you need? Either way. One thing that I want to point out is that since you're already taking so much math and physics, you may want to check in with your counselor and say, are there any degrees I can receive on this campus at the community college prior to going and transferring because I'm taking so much STEM type coursework? And I'm going to show you for our campus. Check this out. If you do all the general education as needed, and you keep your GPA above 2.0, and you complete these classes, what did you see these classes somewhere else? It says required. Complete these 15 units. Math 3A, 3B, 4A. We saw that on assist with the mechanical engineering major. Also, differential equations, also linear algebra. Well, actually select one, so do one or the other. So if you do 4B for this section, then you do 4C for this section. And guess what? That is all. Then you leave at graduation with an Associate of Science in Math. Also the same for physics. You leave with an Associate of Science in physics. Because guess what? You've already planned to take Physics 4A, 4B, and 4C. Math 3A, Math 3B, Math 4A. So that means, but now this could be used if you were to want to get into an internship because you could say you already have degrees in these STEM areas. It could be used if you want to do research. And, by the time you graduate with your Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, what you're going to put on your resume is, all right, I have an Associate of Science in Math, Associate of Science in Physics, and a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. And that speaks for itself. I want to say there was another. I want to segue into the Impaction list. Whoa, that's Cal Poly. Let's go. Oh, let's go here. So I'm going to go hit back. Let's see where I'm at. What it is, see, fall 2017. I want to show you the difference too, because COVID really messed with these numbers. And so what this is a list of all the majors and the GPA that's needed to get in to the program. So it basically tells you, watch this, and this is in 2017 for students that came in. Applicants who completed 3 course requirements, and they're talking about off of the assist.org list, they were admitted above a 2.9. That means people got in with a 3.3, with a 3.5, with a 3.7, with a 3.1. But the student with the lowest GPA got in with a 2.9. That is what this is telling me. And this is what San Jose State says it means when, when I go to conferences. Um, Applicants who completed two course requirements were admitted above a 3.9. So if you didn't, the fewer classes you do, the higher your GPA has to be, right? And so this is 2017, before COVID, when everything was impacted. And of course, up to now, numbers have changed very much because, as you see, um, let's see. Let's go down to mechanical engineering again. Basically, it's that students, I mean, the pool of students changed because all of these super difficult math classes and physics classes were having to happen 100% online, you know? But either way, let's see what GPAs are at now. Applicants who completed 4 or more course requirements were admitted above a 2.0. I'm going to skip down. And so the more, the fewer you take, the higher your GPA has to be. So if you took 3 courses, 2.2. 2 courses, 2.4. 1 course, 2.6, and so on. That should give you an idea of what you need to get into mechanical engineering. Now, for Cal Poly, I would say you should just assume that the GPA requirements for these same statements are 1 point higher. Like I would say those who completed 4 or more course requirements were admitted above a 3.0 for Cal Poly SLO and Pomona, especially in an engineering field. A 3.2 if you had fewer classes, a 3.4, like that's more accurate for Cal Poly. And if you are still around at this point in the video, you're a real trooper. I'm going to do a video like this on the UC system, so probably just UCLA and UC Berkeley, because those are going to have the higher requirements. And so, yeah, check it out. I'm glad to have you, and I'll be glad to have you again.